After Anne Boleyn, there was Jane Seymour, who became Queen number 3. She was born in 1509 and her father was John Seymour of Wolf Hall. Jane was one of Anne Boleyn's ladies-in-waiting. She was a devout Catholic, and Henry actually started to get interested in her in around 1535. And although she was interested, she had learnt from Anne to not become his mistress, but to become his wife. Unlike Catherine of Aragon or even Anne Boleyn, she wasn't seen as pretty and she wasn't as educated, but she knew how to play the game of courting, and she was exactly what Henry needed. After Henry had disposed of his second wife Anne Boleyn by beheading, he and Jane ended up being married on the 30th of May 1536. Unfortunately, she didn't get crowned though, so she was never actually his queen. Unfortunately, the coronation got cancelled after a plague swept through the country. In her time of being Henry's third wife, she managed to help him have a relationship again with his daughter Mary. She also provided him with the long-awaited-for son. On the 12th of October 1537, Jane gave birth to Edward, Prince of Wales. Unfortunately, she fell very, very poorly after giving birth. Just 12 days after the birth of her son, Edward VI, Jane died on the 24th of October 1537 at Hampton Court. Her family enjoyed Henry's favours for the rest of their lives. And in some ways, her dying is actually a blessing, because that meant she didn't get to the point of annoying Henry and ultimately either being divorced or possibly beheaded. But on the flip side, if she had survived, maybe she would have presented him with more sons. She was considered Henry's favourite wife. He himself had said that she was his favourite wife. I personally believe she's only his favourite wife because she provided him with the heir of the throne, Edward VI. But because of his love for her, he had this painting commissioned. In the original painting, there's also a picture of Elizabeth and Mary on either side, showing that they too are part of the family, but not part of this little dynamic family, which is Jane, his son, and Henry. Unfortunately, as she did die 12 days after her son was born, she never got to see Edward grow up, and ultimately never got to see him suffer and die as well, which is a blessing in itself. But 10 years after Henry's own death, he would later be buried next to his one true love, and that is Jane Seymour. So this young lady became his queen. She bared him a son and ultimately died for the cause. She herself seems to be a very demure, very uninteresting person. She is the one who unfortunately died. But there is more to Jane than meets the eye. She herself wasn't overly educated, but yet she managed to go to court. She managed to capture the eye of the king, and she also managed to sway him to treat her as a queen and not as a mistress. She also managed to get him to re-establish a relationship with his daughter, Mary. She was a very powerful woman, and she did it by being a bit more demure than his previous wife, Anne Boleyn.